Alright, so I'm back, and in the previous segment we were talking about the brightness of stars, and now in this segment we want to talk about how do you find stars in the night sky. And so the first method is by using a star chart. And so if you get a typical astronomy textbook, in the appendix in the back of the book, they're going to have different star charts that show all of the constellations arranged, and then you just find your constellation, and then you can see what constellations it's right next to. Well, the star chart is not necessarily the best way of doing it, because we're going to find out that some parts of the year you may not be able to see a particular constellation. Like, for example, Orion, which was the one that had the 3 stars in the belt. Those damn dirty apes, remember that? Okay, so the 3 stars in the belt of Orion, that's considered to be a winter constellation. And so you wouldn't be able to see it during the summertime, at least at the latitude of where I'm at in Springfield, Missouri. So instead, a planisphere might be a better route to go. And you can get these fairly cheap on eBay or on Amazon. And the idea is that you take your planisphere and you dial it to the date that you're interested in and the time, and then you look in the window of it. And then the window shows you what constellations are available. So you'll notice that if I was to take this top off of this plastic top off, I would get all the constellations, and it would be equivalent to the star chart. But by putting this little window on there, then that narrows it down to what constellations are available at certain times and dates of the year. So that's how a planisphere works. And then another way of doing it is by using a celestial sphere. And that is one of these things. So the idea of the celestial sphere dates all the way back to the ancient Greeks 2,000 years ago. And they thought that the Earth was the center of the universe, and they thought that surrounding the Earth was a sphere, and then the sphere had holes in it, and then outside of that was the realm of fire. And then if you were on the Earth's surface and you were looking out through the holes, you'd see the fire, and then that's what a star was. That's not correct. Okay, so that's not the correct way of thinking about it, but astronomers today still use the idea of the celestial sphere to locate constellations and stars. Okay, and the way that they do it is very similar to longitude and latitude. So on the slide there, it shows on Earth longitude and latitude are used. So the lines that go up and down on the Earth's surface, those are going to be longitude, and then they go from Greenwich, England, is called 0 longitude, and then if you go one way, it's so many degrees until you get on the opposite side of the Earth. That would be 180 degrees longitude. And then if you go in the opposite direction, then that's going to be negative longitude. So these would be negative numbers over here, and then these would be positive numbers over here. Then you've got the lines that are going sideways, and those are going to be latitudes. And so it starts off with 0 at the equator, and then it goes to 90 at the North Pole. So what we do is we're going to use a similar set of coordinates to locate the stars in the constellations of the celestial sphere. So instead of using the word longitude, we're going to use right ascension. And it's going to go from a 0 mark on here, and then it's going to go in hours. So it's going to go 1 hour, 2 hours, and then all the way around would be 24 hours. So those are going to be the up and down lines on the celestial sphere. And then you also have the sideways lines on it are going to be called declination, and they start at 0 and then go to 90. What about down here? Those would be negative numbers. So if you're below, those would be negative degrees that you would use for that. So now this way, if you want to know where Orion is at, so if we find Orion on this, it turns out that it's on the equator of this thing. And so there it is. And you can see that the middle belt, or the middle star in the belt, which is very important because that's where Charlton Heston was going for Planet of the Apes. You can see it's right on the equator, so we would say then that its declination is fairly close to being 0. And then you can look this up, so go to Google and type in Orion, right ascension and declination, and you can find its actual numbers. So this is how we can locate constellations in the sky, is by using this. Well, another way of doing it is by using your cell phone. Okay, and so if you take your cell phone and you can download particular apps that go on it, and one of them is called Sky Eye, which I've found is very good. And then what you can do, it's free, once you've downloaded it, you can take your cell phone and just point it at a particular constellation, and your cell phone will tell you the name of that constellation. It will even tell you what planets are visible. And you could say, tell me where Jupiter is right now, and it will say, rotate your body, keep going, keep going. Okay, now take the phone, raise it, raise it, raise it, and then there is that particular star or that particular planet. Now what about if it does this and it tells you to go down, and now you're looking at your feet? Where is that star or planet? It's on the opposite side of the Earth. So sometimes you can't see certain constellations or planets because they're just not visible at that time. So try that. So get yourself your cell phone and download some free software on there so that you can go out and look at the stars at night. So in our next segment, we're going to talk about why is it that you can only see certain constellations at certain times of the day or at certain months of the year. So I'll see you in the next segment.